Once again, we have Emily Dickinson willing to question assumptions, willing to question accepted standards and practices, willing to go against what is considered the norm. Welcome to Strip Cover Look, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Fort, and we are here for another poetry discussion, which will appear in two separate playlists here on the channel. Number one, the poetry discussion playlist, and number two, the Emily Dickinson playlist. The poem in question today: If tolling bell, I ask the cause, and it reads as such. If tolling bell, I ask the cause, a soul has gone to God. I'm answered in a lonesome tone. Is heaven then so sad, that bells should joyful ring to tell a soul had gone to heaven? It would seem to me the proper way a good news should be given. So, the operative word here to me really is lonesome. If I hear a bell, I ask why, and someone tells me a soul has gone to God. Someone has died and we are mourning, and I am given that answer by someone with a lonesome tone. I am given that answer by someone who is missing the departed. Is heaven then so sad? I am questioning why this should be a lonesome tone. I am questioning why this should be a sad event. That bells should joyful ring to tell a soul had gone to heaven. Those bells should not be of the mournful variety. Those bells should be a celebration. It would seem to me, I keep putting "it would" in there, but would seem to me the proper way a good news should be given. So Emily Dickinson here is pointing out what I think she would consider a hypocrisy. If your departed is simply in heaven, why would this be so sad an event? Now, there are two answers. There's one answer why this should be a sad event. It's because the beloved is departed, right? But I think that what Emily Dickinson is really pointing out here is that there's something wrong here. Either you believe that you will once again see your beloved, and in fact, in the thralls of heaven, you would be with that individual for all eternity. So there's one of two answers why this would be a lonesome tone, which answers Emily Dickinson, which answers our speaker here. Number one, there is some trepidation that that individual, the departed, the beloved, is not, in fact, in heaven, which is always the gamble, I suppose, when considering these post-life destinations. Maybe the beloved is in limbo. Maybe the beloved is in hell. But I think what is really being gotten here by our speaker, whether it be Emily Dickinson or not, we have to always make that clarification when talking about a speaker in a poem. It is not necessarily, it's like a retweet, right? It's not necessarily reflective of the thoughts or beliefs or values of the speaker, his or herself, of the writer, his or herself here. But this idea is either that the beloved is departed for a place that is not heaven, or there is a subtle questioning as to whether or not heaven exists. Because if the individual in question, the beloved, the departed, is in hell, we have to assume that that person had earned themselves that spot. I think that there is some unclarity in the major religions of the world, that in the afterlife, if you were in heaven but someone you love is not, that the missing, the heartache will be there. It seems to be the assumption, it seems to be the implied assumption that if that person has earned themselves a place in the fiery ever after, as opposed to the cloudy and bright ever after, that upon death, you will not feel that hole in your existence. That person that is absent, the one that has gone to the fiery depths, will not be missed in heaven, because in heaven you can only feel the righteousness. The righteousness has to be there, and the righteousness would be that person had earned themselves that spot in the ever after. The more quiet undertone, if we can use that phrase for this poem, is that none of it exists, and the beloved has been seen for the last time. The lonesome tone there, then, is stating, hey, it's done. Hey, I'm never going to see this individual again. This individual will never see me again, regardless of where that person had earned themselves in life, regardless of where I have earned myself in a prospective afterlife. Emily Dickinson, in this poem, seems to be using this pretense, the pretense of the sadness of these events, as evidence that maybe no one believes as they profess. Maybe no one is assuming that this heaven really exists. They have to constantly reinforce it in themselves with religious practice, with going to church, with all of these things. And upon the real event, when the real thing happens, a person dies, the underlying ethos, not even ethos, the underlying sort of feeling is that of loss. In the religious sense, this is not loss, this is victory. This is not loss as in I have lost this individual. This is not loss as in like you lose a competition, right? This individual is not lost. This individual is simply someplace better. So why all of the sad tones to these events? Our speaker here is undercutting the assumptions of society that are sort of glossed onto these events, sort of painted on in the aftermath, this religious, you would be tempted almost to say, facade. Our speaker here seems to be saying, hey, you don't believe this either. If you did, you would not be making such a show of sadness. Now, it's sort of a misappropriation of bells' sadness. Why would bells be tolling in sadness? Why would bells be tolling um, such a morose type of tone if the individual is departed to heaven? This would not have been a welcome questioning, a welcome line of questioning in Emily Dickinson's day. And indeed, if you go, I think it's possible, I guess I should say, to read this poem as saying, hey, no, we're doing it wrong. We should be celebrating. But I think that real the real use of this poem, the real application of this poem is saying, you don't believe it. There is every day some type of event that would cause you to question divinity. If these forced questions are so prevalent, are so often, are so ubiquitous, why then do we still put on this facade? Why then do we still find it necessary to go through the rigmarole? Why do we find these ornamental actions like bells at a funeral? Why do we find these so necessary? It's because we are constantly having to reinforce, yes, we do believe this. This is how we feel. Well, if it was, you wouldn't have to remind yourself. That seems to be the implication of this poem to me. That's all I have for this poetry discussion. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, all I talk about on this channel is literature. There's poetry every Monday, and I hope to have you back for the next one.